Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something huge. It's an invisible wall that pretty much every language learner hits at some point. You know the feeling, that frustrating gap between actually knowing a language and, well, being able to use it in real life. If you've ever felt that sudden, paralyzing anxiety right when you have to speak English, stick around. We're going to break down exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how to literally rewire your brain to overcome it. Let's unpack the actual habits of fluency.
So think about this. Do you understand English perfectly fine, but completely freeze up when it's time to speak? Like you can read the books, you understand movies, you write these excellent emails, but the second a native speaker asks you a question, bam, mind goes blank. I want to assure you, this dreaded freeze is incredibly common. But why exactly does it happen if you already know all the words?
Well, here is the big aha moment. You don't struggle because your vocabulary is too small. Actually, scratch that. It has nothing to do with vocabulary. You struggle because your brain has been trained to study English as an academic subject, not to use it as an active tool. Reading, memorizing, translating on paper, none of that actually prepares your brain, or frankly, your physical mouth, for the real act of speaking. The words disappear because speaking isn't a talent, it's a physical habit. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The confidence myth.
We really need to shatter a massive illusion that is holding so many learners back. The absolute biggest trap is thinking to yourself, I'll speak when I feel confident. It sounds logical, right? But it is entirely backward. Confidence doesn't just magically appear before you speak. It is the direct results of speaking. Waiting around for that perfect, fearless moment, that's just a game you're never going to win.
Our source material puts this perfectly, and I want you to really hear this. Fluency is not about speaking perfectly. Fluency is about speaking without fear. When you finally take that leap, your sentences might be super short, your grammar might be a bit messy, and guess what? That is completely normal. Perfection is just an illusion. Fearlessness, that's the actual goal we're after here.
Moving on to Section 2, clear over perfect.
Now, this requires a major mindset shift. We so often strive for perfect English, right? Flawless, textbook grammar, all those complex vocabulary words. But real communication, whether you're in a tense boardroom or just chatting at a local coffee shop, it's not about that. It's about clear English. It's simply expressing your thoughts so the other person understands you. Honestly, a basic, simple sentence spoken clearly is infinitely more powerful than some complex sentence you're just too terrified to even say out loud.
And that brings us to this crucial point. Mistakes are not the enemy. Silence is. So many learners stay completely quiet out of pure fear. But here is the fascinating reality of it all. Every single mistake you make actually teaches your brain something vital. Every broken sentence trains your mouth to move a little faster next time. Silence, on the other hand, silence teaches your brain absolutely nothing.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. Section 3, building internal habits.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is we're moving into the actionable toolbox. We have to look at the mental bottlenecks we create for ourselves. Most learners think in their native language first, and then they desperately try to convert it into English right before speaking. It's literally like adding a massive traffic jam to your thought process. To speak faster and smoother, you've got to cut out the middleman and reduce that internal translation entirely. So how exactly do you do that? Well, you start really small. The moment you wake up, please don't try to formulate some philosophical thesis. Just think to yourself, I am tired. When you walk to the kitchen, think, I need water. It sounds too simple, right? But these low-stakes moments train your brain to naturally live in English, which makes it so much easier to grab those words when you actually need to speak them out loud. Because remember, language isn't just a mental exercise, it is highly physical. Active speaking is all about training the physical muscles of your mouth, your tongue, and your lips. Passively reading a book or listening to a podcast, that's great, but it will never train muscle memory. You have to speak out loud every single day, even when you're completely alone, to build that habit. Just imagine standing in your kitchen. You reach for the kettle and you say out loud to an absolutely empty room, I am making tea. You grab your mug. I am getting my favorite blue mug. Now, I know it feels incredibly silly at first, for sure, but this daily mini-narrative forces your brain to become active. You're training your pronunciation, your rhythm, and your sentence flow all at once in a totally zero-pressure environment.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, active listening and shadowing.
Here is a somewhat hard truth. You really cannot speak natural-sounding English if you don't actively listen to it. When you listen closely, you'll notice native speakers don't usually build sentences from scratch. Not at all. They rely heavily on ready-made chunks, like "to be honest," or "it depends," or "the problem is." Learning these patterns means your brain has significantly less heavy lifting to do during a fast-paced, real-time conversation.
And this brings us to one of the absolutely most powerful exercises you can possibly do, the shadowing technique. It's simple. First, find a short audio clip of a native speaker. We're talking just 10 to 30 seconds, and just listen. Then, immediately repeat it exactly as you heard it. But the real magic? It's in the third step. You must copy their speed, their emotion, and their exact sound. Literally act it out. This teaches your mouth exactly how English is physically supposed to feel.
All right, we're in the home stretch. Section 5, Conversations and Consistency. So the crucial point is this. We've built the internal habits. We've trained the muscles. Now comes the ultimate test, real people. The goal here is interaction, not perfection. Real conversation is messy, but it teaches you how to respond on the fly, how to ask clarifying questions, and how to recover when you completely forget a word mid-sentence. That resilience, just knowing how to keep going anyway, that is true fluency.
Look at this number, 15. That's 15 minutes. You do not need to lock yourself in a room and study English for 5 hours a day. Honestly, that usually just leads straight to burnout. Just 15 minutes of focused, daily, active speaking practice is drastically more powerful than sitting through some exhausting 3-hour class once a week.
Because fluency is not one giant cinematic breakthrough where you wake up suddenly speaking like Shakespeare. It just doesn't work that way. It's built in small, daily repetitions. It's one short conversation with a barista. It's 1 minute of thinking in English on the bus. It's shadowing one short audio clip. Every single time you try, the fear gets just a little bit weaker and your voice gets a little bit stronger.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and I want to leave you with a very direct challenge. Think about this. What will your one brave sentence be today? Seriously, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel fully ready, because, spoiler alert, that day will never come. Speak with mistakes. Speak slowly if you have to, but open your mouth and speak. So as soon as this is over, who are you going to talk to, and what is your brave sentence going to be?